speaker, which will be Natalie Crone. The title of her presentation is Jewish but Not Quite Israeli, Bearing an International Jewish Identity. Thank you.
I hope this doesn't cut into my 7 minutes.
Whoa.
Okay, so I was raised in West Bloomfield, Michigan, and like most international Jews, I went to Hebrew school. I went to my brothers and sisters' bar and bat mitzvahs, and I had to fight to have the Jewish holidays off from school and from work. At the age of 10, I moved to rural Kentucky. And I was the only Jew in my high school, the only one. And then when I went to university, also in Kentucky, I was one of 2 Jews on campus. So being Jewish became very important to me. It became a cornerstone of my identity, because that's how people would see me. It was a label on me. I was blonde, I was a female, I liked horses, and I was a Jew. So I became very interested in Israel. And I developed what most international Jews develop, or Jews who live outside of Israel. It's a dual nationality, where on one hand, you feel very rooted, you feel very connected to the country that you grow up in, but on the other hand, you feel a sense of connection and you feel a yearning for and a direct investment in the future of the state of Israel. So with this dual nationality, this year, I moved to Israel, and I live in Rehovot, Israel, and I teach English with Israeli teaching fellows in Masei Olam. And I knew that when I got off the plane, I was going to go by my Hebrew name of Netanya. And I knew that this was going to make me feel more Israeli. It was going to make me feel more assimilated and more part of the family here. And to my surprise, that didn't happen at all. It was actually the opposite. Because my introductions with people would go something like this. Hi, I'm Netanya. And the Israeli would say, ah, you're from Netanya. Oh, no, that's my name. It's a city, you know. Yes, it's also my name. Oh, that's weird. There are no Israelis named Netanya. Because it's like an American being named Detroit, or someone from Spain being called Barcelona. But you just don't see it here in Israel. So something that became a huge part of my Jewish identity actually made me more ostracized, more removed from the family. So with that, it kind of created this identity crisis. And many international Jews, all of us here in Israel, we've created this identity crisis, and I think it stems from 3 main things. The first one being religion, second being community and culture, and finally politics. So first, with religion. In international communities, international Jews, your Judaism is largely based on an active expression of faith. It's how often you go to shul or temple. It's how often and how observant you are of the Jewish holidays. It's how active you are in the Jewish community. And then, when we come to Israel, all of a sudden, all we need to do is exist here. All we need to do is wake up and breathe. So all of a sudden, we have this kind of odd situation where our whole Jewish identity is kind of turned upside down. Because in Israel, you get mainly 2 choices. You're either going to be Orthodox, or you're going to be secular. You just have to exist here. So a unique situation for international Jews is you can typically choose a certain Jewish movement to be a part of. You can be Reform, you can be conservative, you can be Orthodox. And here, it's easier to find bread on Pesach than it is to find a Reformed synagogue to go to. You just don't find it here. So what happens for international Jews in Israel is we really have to figure out what Judaism means to us in terms of a faith, in terms of an active expression of faith. The second point, culture and community. International Jews in Israel are inherently removed from a giant portion, a giant experience of the Israeli society. We don't have to do national service. We are not required to serve national service. We don't have to serve in the IDF. We don't have to put our lives on the line to protect the Jewish state. Recently, my cohort and I went to Mount Herzl, and we're walking around the graves, and it's a very sobering experience. Because on one hand, you feel very proud. On the other hand, you feel indebted, you feel grateful, you feel gratitude. But then you're left with this complex, because you also feel almost guilty, because it was never asked of you to put your life on the line. You never even had to risk it. So when we were at Mount Herzl, a family and friends came to a grave of a soldier who had just passed a month earlier in the recent operation in Gaza. And they had balloons, because it was this boy's birthday, and they were celebrating it. And we were all crying, and we all wept. We wept with the family, and we wept for the family, but we could not weep 100%. We could not relate completely to what that family was feeling or what the entire Israeli society feels. We could not relate to the gravity of that situation. So the third point is politics. Abroad, international Jews suffer from a paradox of, we want to stand proud and support Israel. But what happens when we disagree with Israel? We're not quite sure how to voice our dissent from the norm, because you don't want to air your family's dirty laundry in public. So that's abroad. Within Israel, it becomes even more complex for us, because we feel, how can we speak on policies and politics that don't directly affect us? We're not citizens here. So it gives us this complex when we go to argue politics and policies with Israelis. So we all began this journey when we stepped off the planet into Israel, and this identity crisis is something that we're all going through, and we're all going to work through it. And for myself, I'm going to continue to go by my Hebrew name of Netanya while I'm here, even if every time I introduce myself to an Israeli, they tell me that, it's a city, you know? So we're all here for one reason or another, but we could have chosen any other country to work or volunteer in or be an intern in, but we chose Israel because we felt drawn to be here. We're committed to being here. So whether you choose to make Aliyah and become a real Israeli, or whether you go back to your respective countries of origin, I wish you the best of luck, and you can rest assured that you're not alone in this journey. Thank you.